President Trump has been freaking out about the possibility of a recession. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. If there's one thing Trump loves to brag about, it's the stock market. He talks about it constantly. And by talks about it, I, of course, mean he lies about it because he lies about everything. I would say lying for him is as natural as breathing, but he's not great at breathing either. In fact, this week, the Washington Post published an exhaustive study that found that as of August 5th, Trump has made over 12,000 false or misleading claims as president, which means that Trump said something false about once every 3 hours on average. Once every 3 hours, that means he has to wake up in the middle of the night just so he can get his lies in. Russia's a witch hunt. How does he even keep track? He must have like a Fitbit for lies, like a Fitbit. Oh no, I need to get my 10,000 lies in. I better hold a rally. In fact, Trump has apparently told so many lies that if he never told a lie ever again in his life, he'd still have averaged 8.7 untrue claims per day over the span of his first term, even though, under this imaginary scenario, he hadn't said anything untrue in more than a year. First of all, let's just bask in that imaginary scenario where Trump hasn't said anything untrue in more than a year. I mean, imagine what his rallies would be like. Folks, people are coming to the border and they're seeking asylum, which is perfectly legal. And we should welcome them because diversity is our strength. Also, I am terrible at golf. In fact, Trump gave a speech on energy to workers in Pennsylvania on Tuesday, and it was one reporter's job to basically sum the whole thing up. It's what's known in politics as the Pool Report. And here's the actual White House Pool Report summing up Trump's speech. In a 67-minute speech that at times resembled a campaign rally, the president meandered through several topics, many having little to do with energy. He talked about trade, immigration, trucks, emoluments, his 2016 victory, union leaders, his poll numbers, the media, steel, China, the amount of money he believes he's losing as president, the Green New Deal, windmills, the WTO screwing us, President Obama's book deal, Hillary Clinton's comments on coal workers, pipelines, and New York, Iran, Veterans' Choice, and more. Oh my God, that sounded like a month's worth of Jeopardy categories. I'll take windmills for 400. The answer, this famous idiot believes they cause cancer. They cause cancer. In fact, one of the lies Trump told at that speech was about the various lawsuits against him, including a lawsuit alleging that he is violating a section of the Constitution that specifically prohibits what are known as emoluments or gifts from foreign governments. For example, a Saudi-funded lobbyist paid for 500 rooms at Trump's hotel after the 2016 election. Does Trump's hotel even have 500 rooms? I just assumed there was a lobby, and if you went upstairs, it was just fake doors painted on the walls. Now, that seems like a pretty clear violation of the Constitution, and yet Trump wasn't concerned about that. He complained instead about how much the lawsuits were supposedly costing him.
This thing is costing me a fortune being president. Somebody said, oh, he might have rented a room to a man from Saudi Arabia for $500. What about the $5 billion that I'll lose? You know, it's probably going to cost me, including upside, downside, lawyers, because every day they sue me for something. These are the most litigious people. It's probably costing me from $3 to $5 billion.
I don't believe you're losing $3 to $5 billion from lawsuits. I would believe you're losing $3 to $5 billion just from, like being Donald Trump. I mean, you lost $1 billion in 10 years, and that was in the 80s and 90s when everyone was making money. I mean, back then a little kid could open a lemonade stand and make enough money to buy a Bugatti. So Trump lies about everything, and the stock market is no exception. But if you compare his record to previous presidents, it's not as impressive. In fact, if you look at the change in the Dow Jones Industrial Average over the same period of time, Clinton saw a 42.4% increase, Obama saw a 41.7% increase, and Trump has seen a 30.1% increase. So Trump's been outdone by Clinton and Obama, the two presidents he hates the most. The only way that could be more embarrassing for Trump is if he did lose $3 to $5 billion and they had to repossess his penthouse and rename it Hillary Tower. More importantly, the stock market is not the whole economy. In fact, most working people aren't really invested in the stock market. It's mostly just a sign of how the wealthy few are faring. In fact, one study found that nearly 40% of the market is owned by the richest 1% of the population, while the bottom 90% of the population owns just 19% of stock market wealth. Basically, for a lot of people, those stock numbers in the bottom of the CNN corner are just something you stare at while you're waiting for your flight. It's like, well, I don't know, I guess green is good and red is bad. I'm going to go to the Cinnabon. Trump's economic policies have only benefited the elite few to begin with, and now that a recession seems like it might be on the horizon, he's freaking out because for 2 years he's been able to coast on the economic tide left by Obama while ignoring the growing wealth gap, massive inequality, or the shuttering factories in states he promised to rescue. In fact, Trump is so desperate for something to brag about that during that rambling speech in Pennsylvania, he touted the Shell plant that was about to open and repeatedly claimed credit for it.
This would have never happened without me and us. This would have never happened. It was the Trump administration that made it possible, no one else. Without us, you would never have been able to do this.
There you go. The Shell plant never would have happened without Trump. Just one problem. Shell announced its plans to build a complex in 2012 when President Barack Obama was in office. Oh, it's been 3 hours. Better check my Fitbit. I mean, he's taking credit for a plant that was announced when Obama was in office. What's next? Do you know I killed Osama bin Laden? I swear it's true. I have a very real photo to prove it. Trump is freaking out about the possibility of a recession after spending 2.5 years catering to wealthy elites. He doesn't care about growing inequality or shuttering factories. We've got a lot of problems, and in many cases,
it was the Trump administration that made it possible.
This has been a closer look.